In today's video, we're going to be using simple little Dollar Tree items and taking them to that next level and giving them a high-end look. Hi everybody, I'm Gwen. Welcome to At Home with Gigi. Now let's get started. Y'all, isn't he absolutely adorable? I popped into my local Dollar Tree and found him, and I just love a bunny, so I couldn't help but pick him up. I've removed that labels, give him a good sanding down, and then I went over him with a baby wipe to remove that residue. Gave him 2 coats of Waverly chalk paint, ivory, front and back, just to give him a finished look. And then I'm going to go in and add a layer of Mod Podge and let that dry, and then we'll move on to the next step. We're going to be using the iron-on method to attach this gorgeous decoupage papers that I'm going to show you in just a moment. And what that is, you put your layer of Mod Podge down. You can let it air dry, or you can speed it up with a heat gun blow dryer, which is what I do. And then once it's dry, you go in with whatever you're going to Mod Podge or decoupage to your surface. And I'm using these gorgeous decoupage papers. I'm trying to get as much of this pretty pink roses on the bunny as possible. And once I've got that placement, I'm going to put a piece of parchment paper over my surface, and then for the decoupage papers, because they're thicker, I have my iron on like low to medium, because like I said, they are thicker. And I like to kind of start in the center and just kind of work my way out to make sure I'm pressing out any air bubbles and just getting a really good reactivation of that Mod Podge. And y'all, I get a perfect finish, I would say 99.9% of the time. It is just so beautiful, the finish, and it's very, very easy. To remove the biggest part of the paper, I just used my scissors, and then I went in with my little finger sander, and also I used a little small nail file to get in around these ears really well. I did remove a little bit of the paint in some areas along the edges, but that's okay because we're going for that kind of vintagey, shabby chic vibe. This bunny is beautiful just the way it is. You can stop right there, but we're going to go in and add a few more little embellishments. Wouldn't be me, right? And y'all know I have this never-ending little bag of scraps of greenery. I've just found some little pieces and cut them down. And I want just like a very delicate, airy look to go right at the base of his ears. And I'm just hot gluing them in using just a teeny bit of hot glue. And I love my little Surebonder glue gun with that tiny tip on there. It just, a detailing tip, that's the word I'm looking for. It gets your glue exactly where you want it. And like I said, this is strictly optional, but we got to take our little bunny to the next level and just give him a very high-end look. And I really feel by the time I finish with him, this is something you would find in one of your little high-end boutiques, and it is just so cute. I wanted to take a moment and just say thank you so much for taking the time to click on my video and to share a part of your day with me. It truly means the world to me. Thank you for subscribing and for all your sweet comments on my videos. It's really helping my channel to grow, and I truly appreciate that, because I know there's so many YouTubers out there, and you could spend your time with anyone, and you're choosing to spend it with me, and that means the world to me. So thank y'all so very much. I had originally removed what I call little pom-poms from the greenery, and I decided to pop them back on. I'm not sure if I'm going to leave them there. I think that kind of gives them a cute, whimsical look. Y'all tell me, should I leave the pom-poms or should I remove them? I've made a simple little bow out of some twine. I'm going to pop that right in the center of the greenery and add a couple of more little embellishments. And y'all, I really feel that the star of this whole project is these beautiful decoupage papers, and those came from Amazon. I'll make sure I link those down below. They are so beautiful, and I love working with them. They're so easy to work with. And I think this is something that you would definitely find in a little high-end boutique this time of year. And it was so easy to make. We're going to be using this little bunny from the Dollar Tree. Isn't he just adorable? And I've already filled in the hole on his ear with some spackling, let that dry, and sanded it down a bit. And then we're just going to go ahead and give him a coat of Waverly chalk paint and Snow White, and then move on to the next step. Once the bunny is completely dried, we're going to be using this stencil, and it's from Amazon, and I'll link it down below. And I'm just going to line it up as best I can on the bunny, and then I'm just going to use a little bit of painter's tape to hold it in place. I'm going to be using the color Pavement from Apple Barrel because it's not a very intense black, and as you can see, I'm removing a good bit of the paint just by penciling it up and down on my plate, because I want this to look kind of worn and faded. If you want more of an intense color, I'd probably use jet black, but that's not what I'm going for with this project. And I'm just very lightly pouncing over the stencil and just kind of, I don't know if you can tell, I've got this sped up so much, just kind of going straight down and picking it up, not dragging it across the stencil to help prevent bleeding. Now you're going to want to make sure this paint is completely dry before you do this step, or you're going to have a hot mess. I let it set for a couple hours, and I hit it with my blow dryer on high heat just to be on the safe side. And again, I'm just kind of lightly sanding over it just to give it a little bit more of a faded, worn look. We're going to add some of these beautiful transfers to the bunny. And these came from Amazon, and y'all, they're a little pricey, but they are so worth the money. You get 3 huge sheets, and they are some of the easiest transfers I have ever used in my life. It does not take a lot of just rubbing and a lot of pressure to make it adhere to your surface and get everything to transfer. Y'all all know what I'm talking about. We've all had those transfers that you just have to really work, but not these. I mean, you want to use firm pressure when you're going over them. And then to make sure that all of it has transferred, I just very carefully lift up my plastic, just checking to make sure as I'm going that everything is transferred. If not, just lay it back down and kind of gently rub over it again. But it's just the easiest thing in the world. And then when I'm finished lifting up the plastic, I'll use it to just rub over the transfer again, just burnishing everything in. Next, I'm just going to go in with the color Ballet from Waverly chalk paint and just paint the inside of his ears. So we're going to be doing a technique called reverse stenciling, and I'll tell you more about that in just a moment. But I'm going to start by putting my layers on this wooden palette sign from Walmart, and I'm just using my ruler to make sure that I'm getting them as straight as I possibly can, and we're going to spell the word Easter. Reverse stenciling is where you've painted your surface and then you put the letters, like I'm doing here, down, and you want to make sure that you get them down as tightly against the surface that you're going to be painting or reverse stenciling on as you can, so you don't want to get any paint up under there. And then I'm going to go in with the color Ballet from Waverly chalk paint, and I'm going to, usually I just paint the area and then I remove the letters, but because I just wanted to go ahead and paint the whole sign, I probably waited just a little too long, but I think it came out just fine. You'll have to tell me what you think. But if I forgot to tell you, this sign is from Walmart. It was for another project. I never got around to using it, but I had painted it the color white, I believe it was, from Waverly chalk paint. Now I'm just going to come back in with my little tool and just very, very gently lift up that edge and then just peel it off. And I'll just continue to peel each of the letters off until I get them all removed. And this is just such a fun and inexpensive way to add words to your projects if you don't have a Cricut or you don't have stencils or whatever might be the case. While the paint is still damp or wet, I'm going to come back in with a baby wipe and just remove some of the paint. I want it to look a little bit distressed without having to add any antiquing wax or anything like that, because I want to keep this a very bright and crisp project. I'm going to use this stencil and add in the word blessings. As you can see, the top part of it says Easter. I would have used that part of the stencil, but it was just a little too big, so I'm just going to use just the one part, and I'm just kind of holding it in place because it really wasn't anywhere to be able to tape it down, and just being very careful. This is very sped up. Just being very careful so as not to move the stencil, and I think it came out just perfect. To keep the rabbit from just laying flat against the palette sign, I'm going to add in these 3 Jenga blocks, or faux Jenga blocks. They're from the Dollar Tree. And I'm just going to put them in 3 different places on the back, and then whenever I hot glue that to my palette sign, it'll give it like a 3D effect and help it stand out and just pop out from the palette sign a little bit. Now for video purposes, I'm just using hot glue to attach it to the front of the wooden palette, but you can certainly use E6000 Gorilla Gel glue, something like that, for a more permanent hold. I want to give our rabbit a fluffy tail, so I wanted something different, so I popped this foam rose off of one of those LED lights that you get at the Dollar Tree in the candle section, and added a touch of hot glue to the bottom to keep it all together. And I'm using an old fluffy brush and just kind of dipping it into Cameo, I think it's Cameo Pink from Apple Barrel. If not, I'll list it here on the screen, and just lightly brushing over it until I kind of get the color that I want. I thought this turned out so pretty. I just love this effect. I'm just going to use a little more hot glue, pop the rose on top of the wooden tail there, and just kind of adjust it and hold it down until I get it just how I want it. And then I decided it needed just a little more pink, so I'm just going back in and just very lightly brushing over some of the petals. I want to add just a little more embellishment, so I've cut down 2 strips of ribbon. Each one's a little bit smaller than the other, and I'm just using a tiny bit of hot glue, and you can see my finger protector up under there because this ribbon is so sheer, but it is just beautiful. It's chiffon sage, I believe is the color from Amazon. I'll link it below as well. Just kind of tapping it into place, laying them on top of each other. You just pinch it in the center and tie it off with a piece of twine. It's just that simple. And I love this ribbon, y'all. Gosh, it's so beautiful. I used just a very small amount of glue to attach the bow because this ribbon is just so thin and delicate. I was afraid that it would seep through and you'd be able to see the glue. But I love this ribbon. Oh my goodness, I ordered some more in different colors. So as y'all can see, I did go back and add a couple of more things to the rabbit. Whenever I was filming it and editing, I was like, oh my gosh, the curve along his back is just too bare. So I went in and added the little butterfly and one more transfer onto it. And I think that was the finishing touch that it needed. But what do y'all think? You think that it needed the extra flower and butterfly, or should I have left it alone? We're going to make a super cute picture for spring, and I'm going to begin by just taking this picture frame apart, just pop out this backing, and then I'm going to pull off those little foam red roses that's on the front. And once I get as much pulled off as I can, I'm just going to go in with my sanding block and just keep sanding over it until I get everything smoothed out. Now, it would have been easier if I had just smoothed everything down and painted over it, but I decided to move that paper backing, which was a little bit harder than what I thought it would be, but I just dampened some paper towels, put it over it, and then I just saturated. Not showing it, but I saturated it with my spray water bottle, let it set for a few hours, and then just peeled it off, and then just went back in with my sanding block and sanded it all down, and just wiped all of that down. Then I'll go in and give it a coat of Waverly chalk paint in the color Ivory, and once it's dry, we'll move on. I've added a layer of Mod Podge and let that dry, and we're going to be using the iron-on method to attach this beautiful decoupage paper, and this came from Amazon, and I'll make sure I link it down below. We are going to be using the iron-on method for this page as well. We're going to repeat the exact same process as we did with the little bunny rabbit earlier in the video. I know, not very original, but this is the most foolproof method for decoupaging you can get, especially when you want your surface to be completely smooth. And we're going to be adding a stamp to the center of our page in just a bit, so I want this to be just as smooth as it possibly can. And y'all, I love this. I cannot say enough how much I love this decoupage method. And again, I'm just going to hit it with my sanding block, go around and just remove that excess paper, and then move on to the next step. This stamp came from Amazon, and I'll link it down below for you. It is just so adorable, and the detail is just beautiful. And I'm just using my ink pad and just going around making sure I get enough ink to make sure I get a really good stamp on my paper. Now y'all, this is new to me, so I may not be doing it exactly right, so my apologies for that. I did get a little gung-ho, and I got some ink on the plastic, and so I just went in with my baby wipe and just wiped off any excess. I'm just trying to line it up as best I can. I do get a little bit off center, but that's okay. I'll go back in a little bit, and once I get it in the frame and camouflage it with a little bit of greenery that we're going to add. Now y'all, grant me some grace again. This is my first time using a stamp, so I may not be doing it exactly right. I am learning. So if you have any tips and tricks, drop them down below. I'm trying to be careful. I want to make sure that I press it down enough that, you know, the stamp is going and ink's going to get on my paper, but not so much that it's going to smoosh and kind of blur the image. While the ink is drying, I'm going to go in and give a really quick sand down to this frame because there's some type of coating on it. I'm going to wipe that down really well, and then I'll go in and give it a coat of Waverly chalk paint in the color Truffled. So I want the frame to look kind of aged and vintagey, so I'm going to be using this chippy brush and going in with a little bit of leftover ivory paint, and I'm just going to dry brush over the frame. And I intended originally to just do it very lightly, but as I always do, I got too heavy-handed in some spots, and I'm glad that I did, because on the areas that I got too heavy-handed, I went in with the baby wipe and was just wiping it away, and I got a little heavy-handed with that, and I was like, ooh, I really like that look. And it was removing some of the brown truffle paint as well, and with that color of the frame up under it, and just all of it mixed together, it just gave it that perfect, just aged, worn out look that I was looking for. What is it that Bob Ross used to say? A happy mistake? Is that the phrase he used to say a lot? But anyway, this was a great happy mistake. I love how this frame turned out. Now that everything's put back together, isn't that beautiful? I just love this. It just looks so vintagey. And I have a variety of greenery here and some of these beautiful little pink ranunculus. And we're just going to, I'm just kind of seeing where I want to place them. And it was a little bit too high, so I'm going ahead and completely snipping off the rest of the stem there. That way it'll set flat against the frame. I am going to add a pretty generous amount of hot glue on the back of this flower because there's not much to hold this in place, just that little strip of the frame. And then I'm just going to hold it there until the hot glue starts to set up. And then I will do that with each piece, the flower and the greenery. I just hold them in place until everything sets up, and it just kind of makes sure my greenery and flowers positioned exactly where I want them to be. I'm just going to continue to add in bits and pieces of greenery and little flowers until my eyes are happy. In my mind, it's looking like a bit of a vintagey English garden. I don't know, y'all tell me what you think, but I love the way this is turning out, and that little stamp, I am loving this. It is so pretty. This little white rose that I'm adding in right now in the lavender, that came from Walmart, and it's just, y'all all know I have that little bag of bits and pieces, and I'm just adding those in. And I basically did the exact same process on this top corner, except I'm just using these little white flowers instead of the purple lavender. And y'all, I do not know what these little tiny white flowers are. They were on some of my greenery and I just snipped them off. They kind of look like white lavender. I have no idea. If you know what they are, just leave me a comment down below and tell me. But I thought they looked perfect and just wanted a little bit of something extra there at the top corner. But I am just so in love with this picture frame, y'all. I cannot tell you how much I love this vintagey English garden look. You can always choose to use a different type of stamp. Like I have a stamp that I got from Temu that has birds on it. I could have used that instead of the rabbit, but because this is still before Easter, I went ahead and did the rabbit because I just love this rabbit so much. But if you use birds or something like that, you could pretty much use that all the way through the summer. Thank y'all so much for being here. I truly appreciate you. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe button if you're not already subscribed, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye!